today's episode of Nurturing the Whole Child. Today we look at a very interesting aspect of child development, that is moral development. In a world where everything is becoming relative, it's very important for us to start these discussions around moral development in our children. At what stage do we start inculcating morals? At what stage do we start getting concerned about our children's moral development and, instilling those morals? At what age in our children's development do we get concerned about their knowing of what is right and what is wrong? At what point do we, as parents especially, pass to our children what we consider right, acceptable, not acceptable, wrong, and just those acceptable behaviors. So this is what we are looking at in our today's episode, all the way from infancy into teenagehood. Children are acquiring morals. They are developing their sense of right and wrong, albeit differently. Because again, something very important for us to note is that the aspect of morality, which simply defined is a person's ability to know what is right and what is wrong in terms of thoughts, intentions, actions, or inactions, if you like. So we are talking about how children develop their sense of morality right from infancy all the way to teenagehood. And like we have been saying in our previous episodes, anything that we intend to train or to nurture in our children is best while started when they are young. It's okay to have those fights because eventually there are fights as we nurture children. There's that sense of resistance. But as parents or as caregivers, we can choose whether to have those fights, or let me not call them fights, then as whether to have these discussions when they are young or when they are older. We obviously know as they grow older, the resistance becomes more. So we look at how the children develop a sense of morality even at their youngest, at infancy. When children are very young, infants, they have not yet developed a sense of what is right and wrong, but they have that innate ability to develop this sense. So at infancy, a child's sense of morality is defined by if their needs are met or not. So if an infant's needs are met, then that feels right. And if the infant's needs are not met, then that just basically feels wrong. So if an infant is left to cry on their own, not attended to, is not had, their diapers are not changed, then that feels wrong to the child. If an infant is loved right, cuddled, played with, that feels right. If an infant is fed when they are hungry, that will feel right. If they are left to cry their hunger out, again, that feels wrong. That is why we are saying a sense of morality for infants depends on whether their needs are met or not. With their needs being met, feeling right, and with their needs not being met, feeling wrong. So if an infant is having a caregiver who is not responsive, a caregiver who doesn't engage the child, doesn't talk to the child, doesn't respond to the child's needs appropriately, then this child grows up feeling like, understands this and interprets it as wrong. So for infants, it's as simple as if my needs are met, that is right. If my needs are not met, that is wrong. So into toddlerhood, when children are in their toddler years, that's below 7 years, between 3 and about 7 years, most of the time they will do the right thing for fear of punishment. So as long as I am not going to get punished, then it feels right. So they haven't gotten to a point where they have intrinsically developed that sense where they know this is right, and so I pursue what is right, or where they know this is wrong, I avoid it. Their avoidance is typically because they are avoiding punishment. And of course, we all know that young children fear reprimands. They fear to be, to be punished. So at that stage in life, they are doing the right thing for fear of punishment. Growing into the preteen years of from 7 or 8 years before teenage years, these children now their cognition is developing, and so they are at a point where they know they have a sense of right and wrong. They have realized that in a family setup, there are values, there are expectations, there is acceptable behavior, there is behavior that is not acceptable. And so at that point, they start now aligning themselves, they start uh, picking the appropriate behavior as displayed, of course, by the adults in their lives. And it's at this point where it's very important now in a family setup we start spelling out expected behavior to our children. So if you're going out shopping with your 7-year-old child, it's good to start talking to them. You engage them on what you expect. You kind of preempt. You tell them we are going to the grocery store. I'm expecting you to stay close to me. Don't wander around the supermarket, for instance. Don't go far away from me. And when we get there, we are going to buy one, two, three things. So that if they have questions, if they want to ask, can I get cookies, for instance? Can I get sweets? Then you can tell them, no, we are basically just going to buy milk, we are going to buy sugar, we are going to buy bread. So for preteens at the ages of between 7 to 10, these children have already developed a sense of what to do and what not to do. They already have developed a sense of fairness or lack of it. And they are also expecting to be involved in decision making. So your 7-year-old, your 10-year-old will desire to be involved in the choices or in the decisions that you're making concerning them. In simple things like, what to wear to a certain event, for instance. If you're taking them out to play or if you're taking them out to church or to visit their friends, it's good that you engage them. You don't just remove clothes from their closets and put them there and say, I said you put on that. They need to be engaged. But the way you engage them now, again, has to be giving them closed options. So you could be talking to your child at 7 years and asking them, will you put on the blue or the red t-shirt? Again, depending on if you feel either of the colors or either of the choices are appropriate for whatever event you're going for. So that way, it doesn't leave it so open. It's not the same as asking, what clothes will you wear? Because that confuses them, throws them into feeling lost. The choices become too many. So it's a little easier when you give them closed options. And if you look through the curriculum designs, around this age they have been taught about children's rights. So they know they have certain rights. And so as you handle them, as you engage with them, be sure to start receiving a bit of resistance, unlike for the toddlers and the infants. So around this age, they would want to, if they ask you for permission, for instance, to go and play outside, and maybe you're feeling like the space outside the compound is not safe for them. You don't just say no and you leave it at that, because most likely they are going to tell you, but it's my right to play. So you need to tell them you're not going out now because of one, two, three. You're not going to play out now because I need you to finish your homework, or I need you to finish some chores that I had assigned you, or today the weather doesn't look so good, or just make sure you explain to them, not just saying closed nose or just prohibiting without explanations. Because once again, at this age, their cognition is growing. They have a sense of fairness. So if you're just saying no, 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 and not giving explanations, they start feeling like you're being unfair and they don't take it well. So that's for children, preteens or children between 7 or 8 to teenage. For teens, it's a little different because again, as we have said before, as children grow in cognition, not necessarily in years, because these are two different elements of development. It's possible for someone to advance in years and their cognition is not growing. So we are talking about as children develop in cognition. So a lot of times we, as caregivers and as parents and as educators, we confuse these things. So we are looking at a child and looking at their chronological age and already imposing a certain way of conduct to them just because we are looking at the number of years. But it's important to look at cognition development. It's possible for a child to be older, but still their cognition levels have not grown to the point where their sense of morality is developing. So, as children get into the teenage years, it is hoped that their cognition is also developing. And so, their sense of morality, their sense of right and wrong is also developing. But once again, they are at a stage where they are thinking the people who set these moral standards, are they infallible? Are they absolutely right? So there's a stage in life where they're beginning to question. They're beginning, their sense of right and wrong is growing from I am doing it because I know it's right to I am doing it because my family says it's right. Then finally to I'm doing it because I am now fully convinced that this is the right thing. So it's very important as caregivers and as parents and even as educators to be aware of these stages of development. That you won't be expecting a teenage to look at morality in terms of, you're not going to do this because I said it's wrong. So you're going to give them explanations, and these explanations need to be explanations that make sense to them. Because I know as parents and as people who are interested in the growth and development of children, we all want to bring up children with a sense of morality, with a sense of right and wrong, with children who behave within, expected guidelines. So in my interactions with children, I ask them, what would you consider general principles? There are those aspects of morality that are family based. Like in this family, we don't do this. In this family, we don't go for sleepovers. In this family, we don't, do so many things. So there is what is set within a family. But there is also the general and the acceptable sense of right and wrong. So in my interaction with children, I get to ask them what they would consider, especially the teens, what they would consider universal aspects of morality, because I know we have expectations or aspects of morality depending on so many things, depending on religion, depending on family setups and family expectations. But as I interact with children, I get to hear some general things that, according to these children, and especially my interaction with my teen daughter, she tells me that regardless of where you come from, it's expected of you to be honest. It's expected of you to be respectful. And I heard something very interesting from my son. You should be ready to listen to counsel from reasonable adults. I think that was quite interesting. That means we have adults who children may not consider reasonable. But yes, the aspect of respect, the aspect of regard for adults, and the direction and guidance given by adults is something that comes out strongly. We're also talking about issues like no discrimination, equality, acceptance of others, forbearance, looking at others and realizing that they are human beings deserving of dignity, deserving of fair treatment, regardless of where they come from, regardless of their religion, again, regardless of their race. So, as adults, as educators, as parents, and as caregivers, we can agree for sure that there are certain expectations in terms of right and wrong, regardless of what you believe in, regardless of where you come from, regardless of your religion, regardless of your level of education. There are those simple expectations that society, they may be unwritten, but those, it's like a code of conduct that is not necessarily written, but it's expected. So it's very interesting to know that as children grow up, they know, you know. So I was asking myself, if my teen children are growing up knowing that this is expected of them, so what happens if they have adults in their lives who are not behaving like they expect these children to behave in this certain way? So then that brings us to the role of the adults, the role of the parent, the role of the caregiver, and the role of the educators. You know, in the life of a child, it's just usually very impossible to leave out the teacher, to leave out the educator, the caregiver, any other person other than the parent taking care of this child. So these children know what they expect. They expect the adults in their lives to be doing. So what happens then if as adults we are not pronouncing these expectations? Because if we are talking about nurturing morality in children, nurturing the aspect of right and wrong in children, then isn't it obvious that we need to start from the point of what do we consider? What do we spell out? Right from even small units as a classroom. What is my expectations on you as my pupils? And what are your expectations also of you as my as your teacher? You know, there's a song I hear young school going children sing in the beginning of their school day when they are setting up their pace for the day. We have come to school today, children, let us be good children. Then they turn to their teacher. You have come to school today, be a good teacher. That means they know it's expected of them to conduct themselves in a certain way, but they're not living out the teacher or the adult in their lives. So it's like there is a relationship, there is an interdependence. So if teacher is good, we are going to be good. If we are going to be good, teacher is going to be good. I don't know how that plays, but for me, it informs that children they expect you to caution them, they expect you to guide them, they expect you to lay down your expectations. And especially for teens, they, in as much as they feel like these values and these morals, these expectations can be negotiated, they still know that there has to be a place where we draw the line and it is clearly stated this is what expected behavior is. And worth noting again for children around teenage is that for them it's very important what their peers feel about them. They want to be accepted by peers. So as you are interacting with teens, when when nurturing their sense of morality, it's important for us to realize that they can easily adjust their behavior and their way of conduct so that they can fit in with their peers. So if you notice this, then it's important as either a parent bringing up a teen child to be cognizant of the fact that sometimes teens will adjust their behavior and their sense of morality to fit in with their peers. So that explains peer pressure. That explains why children will easily fall off, even when they have been trained in the best way, when they have been nurtured in the best way, because they have this need to belong. So as we nurture them and as we nurture their sense of morality, it's important to be cognizant of this fact and to help them know that in as much as they may want to fit, regardless of how many people could be doing something that they know and they are assured that is wrong, they really don't always have to bend. And that is really not so easy. It's not as easily as said when it comes to dealing with teens, because you know that sense of that desire to belong to a group is very, very important. Teaching your child or teaching your teen child that it's okay to be the odd one out. It's okay not to always belong. I think should be the hardest thing for any parent or any caregiver to teach. But it's possible if it is passed on with love, if reasons are given, if appropriate explanations are given, it is achievable. Across generations, we have had people who stood out and said, doesn't matter what everyone is doing, if I feel it is not right for you, then I'm not going to engage. So generally then, what is the role of the parent the caregiver? Again, I'll still talk about the educators. What is our role in teaching morality to children? We need to know that children learn morality from people who are closest to them. They could be relatives, they could be their teachers, they could be their parents, they could be their caregivers. So the first rule of the thumb, and I would say this is exactly where the rubber meets the road. How do you conduct yourself? Because it's very easy to say, do not use abusive words. But how hard are you going to try as an adult to model this behavior? So the first thing, as with any other aspect of nurturing for children, is to be a role model. If you believe in yourself, because again, the aspect of morality is first, what you hold as important for you as the caregiver or as a parent, what is important for you in a certain context. If that is what you want to pass on to the children under your care, are you practicing it? So if you're saying we are going to be considerate of others, are the children watching this consideration, or do they see you always treating others unfairly and with little regard and with little respect? Is that what they are seeing? Because mostly children, as we have said before, children do not learn. They learn less from what they hear, but learn more from what they see. Children will always learn more from what they see than what they hear. So what are they seeing you doing? So the first thing is modeling appropriate morals, the morals you want to see. You want to see empathy. You want to see respect. Can your children see you respecting people? Can they see you respecting the gate man? Can they see you respecting the adults around you? And that is quite a challenge for adults. As we bring up these children, it's always like a wake-up call every time we talk about modeling. Even as I speak about it, it's still it still hits me that how many times have I not rightfully modeled the right behavior? But look, it's important for us to keep reminding ourselves that they mirror our behavior as just as simple as, as this cliche that monkey see, monkey do. What they see us do, they see us shouting, disregarding people, making people feel invalidated, they just behave the same. They copy the same behavior. So that is the first thing. Another way of teaching morality to children is using hypothetical examples. Something that may happen, may not happen. So you're asking your child, supposing your friend was being bullied, what would you do? Would you just walk away? Would you say, as long as it's not me, I don't really care? Would you stand up for your friend? So when you use this, it helps stretch their thought system. It helps them now send themselves to another space where they start thinking, they start considering themselves as solution givers. Another way of teaching children morality is to help them know that good behavior and bad behavior has a way of affecting others, and it may end up affecting the child themselves. For instance, if you tell your child, if you're constantly telling lies, it will affect you in the sense that sometimes people may never believe you, even when you are so seriously telling the truth. They will never take you seriously. So if you are constantly just lying, people may end up never believing you. So you are giving them a cause. Their behavior has an effect both on themselves and on others. Because if you are constantly telling a lie, then other people will not believe you, and it will affect you. When you are not believed, you will feel bad. So in that sense, you are actually just telling them it's good to be honest. Or it may be costly for you to be honest, but it's good so that people learn to take you for your words. So as a caregiver and as an educator, it's good to let children know that good behaviors, good morals have good consequences. You know, if you need to appraise a behavior that they have displayed, like you've told a child, your young child, you are going to the supermarket, this is what you are going to buy. I need you to stay close by to me. Do not run around the store and such kind of things. So if they behave like that, they need to see you applauding them, rewarding that behavior, not necessarily by giving them material things, but by even just saying words of affirmation. That was good. You behaved well. You did well. You see, it was so easy for us to do our shopping, and now we enjoyed our time together, as opposed to if you disappeared on me and I had to run around the store looking for you. So when you train them, you give them instances where people behaved appropriately and they had good consequences, as opposed to people behaving inappropriately and also getting bad consequences. So those are few simple ways of teaching morality. I cannot overemphasize the fact that as adults, we are being watched. I think I'm repeating it just for emphasis. As adults, we are being watched. Whatever you do as a parent, whatever you do, whatever you say as a teacher, as a caregiver, please know that you're being watched. And there's no better tool to train your child in all aspects of development. Moral development now being our focus today. There's no better way of training your child than mirroring the right behavior. Thank you very much, and please stay tuned for more episodes.